for more. Enjoy.
Michael Gross of the Wingman's Path to Positivity's message on December 26th, 2022 was a Mudita Monday message about celebrating the success of another without envy or attachment, just genuine success, just genuine pleasure in their success, without needing to compare ourselves to what they've done well for what we don't have because they have something we weren't aware we even wanted necessarily before we then saw their example of it. So, what I want to say I am most excited about this day is the fact that I am putting together the Justinian connection with an X, for X does mark the spot we are supposed to get our shot on the target, right? Where a mark is placed in the center for us to know that is where we are to send our arrow. The target is what we want to get in the middle of. We want to hit the mark, hit the spot, right? The G spot. G, what would that spot be like? That is even said to be part of a larger female anatomy we have been deceived to believe was only a clitoris, when the clitoris is just the little sensitive skin on the outside with nerve endings that go all underneath of the insides of us, which is why the G-spot could be a myth. Don't quote me on that. If I'm wrong, I'm not attached. It's ultimately in me, and it's for me to discover, and ultimately the one who is also in a woman's body, a female body, for you to discover for yourself and to see that maybe it's true that the clitoris is actually part of a larger organism within, or not organism, but unit, I guess you could say. I don't quite know how to describe anatomy the way that it needs to be, but what I do know is that I had no idea I was going to talk about the female anatomy of our genitalia when I started this message, and yet that's where the message went, when it is a bug's life. And we must see how within the Bug's Life movie there is a scene where the grasshoppers have retreated to go get drunk and party, and the leader is getting a massage. Oh, Maximus comes in the window in the minute. I think his name is Hopper, is getting a massage. And Flick is the ant who is very entrepreneurial, who is causing havoc for the grasshoppers because he's questioning things, and the grasshoppers are losing ground because other ants are getting activated and triggered to also then ask questions, which is a power position. We just were never taught that we must actually direct the ions in a quest, or they will be quested for when we are questioned and then stand on the defensive. Therefore, why I started talking about the clitoris in the first place being attached to a larger unit connects back always to the incorporating of us into the whole. And it is time for us to see the need for individuation, for us to break free from the family we were born to and all of the other tribes and communities we've found identity from before, and see there is an entity within the word identity itself. So it's not outlandish to suggest that there is a connection between a corporation being also called a corporate entity. For every identity we take on has an entity with a brand, logo, banner, flag that it carries to represent what it is to someone that doesn't necessarily recognize the ship, but may recognize the flag. Every ship is different. The flags, banners, logos are the logic that we use to rationalize a ration of lies, because pro-social lies have been promoted and promulgated until now, such as the structure of the female anatomy and also the male anatomy, and the fact that yes, you can take the muscle out of the center of the penis, much like a hot dog, and poke holes inside of the outside of what was a man's genitalia, and basically poke the skin up to create a clitoris like feature, and also create a pee hole, and then put the rest of what was an outie then inside, and then have a playpen for the partner that then wants to make love to the woman who was a man before he turned inward, literally, with surgical assistance that can't be reversed or undone once done. And you know, I want to say, back when I was 15, I got my sweat glands removed. And I am wearing a shirt that would require me show more than what I am willing to right now. But what I want you to know is that I have big scars that I became insecure about because I had a surgery that I was told of by another insecure, one that I respected, who was older, and said they had a friend who had had their sweat glands removed because they had hyperhidrosis as well, which is overactive sweat glands. I believe now, with more understanding of the machinery that is me, that my system works faster, so it needed more perspiration in order to release the steam that my energy was transmuting. Yet, when I was 15, I followed the advice of the one who said that if I talked to my doctor and told them it was affecting me psychologically, which it was, that I would be able to get the surgery covered by my health card. So I talked to my doctor, I got the specialist appointment, I had the conversation with the specialist, and I booked the appointment. And he said, you know, you're going to have scars from this. When I had it done, I thought that I had overactive sweat glands, which in my mind meant that what were smaller for most people, mine were just enlarged. So they would be going in, cutting out that, and going. I don't know that he explained it this way, but basically our sweat glands are under the entire surface of the skin, for the skin is the largest organ within the body. So instead of cutting out a piece of the skin that was overactive, what they did was cut out a chunk of skin like this and then stitch it together, which kind of looks like what we started talking about in the first place. And this is why I want to say that I mutilated myself with the medical system's assistance, not knowing that it was going to impact my body's ability to self-regulate for the rest of my life, until I mastered the very thing that was making me sweat before. Because sweating is the way that we cool a system down when we are nervous. The nervous system gets cooled down with perspiration because we are self-regulating. We are letting energy in motion, which is the emotion that's represented or signified by water, to be released. And we do it through perspiration. I cut out the primary detox zone for me to be able to perspire on my own. And so now I have scars. I do still sweat, just I don't have as many sweat glands and surface area to distribute all of that sweating through. And I no longer do self-regulate my temperature the way that I would have been able to if I hadn't have altered myself, which I want you to consider if you are questioning your gender, because gender is a social construct, and I don't mean that in an offensive way. So please know that I say that because the bug's life, I'm like Flick. I'm standing up and saying there is a transhumanism agenda that is designed to make men and women believe that it is better to be other, to care more about our gender instead of actually living a life and getting to know the people around us, to build community where we care about those we are connected to because we actually know their stories and do care. People don't care how much we know until they know how much we care. For it is not until then their nervous systems are able to be regulated for them to slow down enough to listen and actually hear what we're saying, because we settled our nervous system so they could settle theirs. Sympathetic resonance is how we come into harmony with one another nervously. If one is nervous, the other will often match that unconsciously as a way to adapt, to catch up with the one who is nervous, to climb into the ditch with them. Sympathetic resonance is what we do when we don't think consciously about the impact of crawling into the ditch with one who is totally not willing to even lift a finger, let alone their own spirits, to get out of that ditch. We have to get ourselves out of the ditch before we can help anyone else. Empathy is where we go to the edge, where the version of us sympathizing with the one that is in the ditch is down there too, and we have to help that one out, and then be able to do the same with the one that was in there in the first place, that claimed so much of our energy in order to climb down there to be with. Victims blame, complain, and justify, whereas empowered ones rise above and challenge the concepts, coach through by asking the questions, and then experience the victory of being the one that actually stands free, not on the top of a hierarchy that was created to make the hierarchies seem to be better within this universe. Soul One song that we are all singing along to. We have to breathe ourselves back into the moment we are in. We must see that we can be the Flicks that challenge the social constructs that say gender and sex are different. If we look at the sentence structure, we see that we have sex with one another if we are doing that. And hopefully it is a sacred container with another that loves us as deep as what is required for us to feel safe to bare our soul. That level of vulnerability and depth is what happens when we unite and bond with another. When we connect, like in Avatar, and you connect with the animal that you ride, or the tree of life that you connect with, and then are able to see all the lineage of the ages of the lines we come from. All that came before us stand within the cells of our DNA, for it is royalty that we carry within our bloodlines. We must be the ones that realize the interconnection of the nervous system and realize we need not sympathize but empathize. We need feel and yet deal with the healing process within ourselves by feeling through all of it. Feel it to heal it. If you don't, you will seal it, and that will only hold it down until a later now moment where it will come to be resolved because we didn't solve it in the first place. Let's learn to do that in good company. It won't always be nice, but you won't be alone through it. All one is what happens when we bring love back into the frame in place of the lies that have brought shame to our name. The legal name and the God-given names that are the grantor of dominion, that allow us to stand as men and women who have not been claimed by the Vatican, that system that rules the dogged world that we have been living in and trying not to drool over all of the 3D carnal sensations that would satiate our desires and keep us focused on the hate for ourselves and others because we respect Nate not. What is that, we say, not about any man that would be named so, but to see that the tribes that we have been divided into are the ways that we have learned to hate ourselves and the cells that carry us. We have to see the tribe of Dan is DNA in a different order. The man himself was not named any of the characters necessarily that are featured in the story that presents the demigod of Moloch, half god and half bull, who is most satiated by the offering of children of the faithful. For we, in our inner sense, feel the corruption and have unrest that others try to stop us from sharing, lest we draw attention to the tribe and get us all marked on the line. It is time for us to see that it is only the legal name that would be marked on the line. For when we stand under the divine appointment that we are here to be as the creators of our own lives, not reactors, adding an extra E to bring the energy into the creators, instead, not taking on the status, but to see that that is a status, in fact. So I almost tricked you if I had have led you astray down the title of creator versus reactor, which are archetypes, which are familiar patterns we fill in with energy. So instead of being the creator, which is the status, I'm going to remain the woman creating, that takes command of mine own hand so that I can use the pen to do what is required. It is purple for sovereignty, as am I, though I need no army if my fellow man, woman, and child were raised responsibly, so that it was not just growing up that we saw the need to do on a literal view will level. Viewed. It doesn't work. But on the literal level, what we can see in view is what we knew we needed to grow into. But what we didn't see was the inner realms, which is what we must be the masters of. And to know the intuition is the guru our soul hired ahead of time to guide us through this life. So we have to learn to listen to it again. Learning the language of our soul is how we become more whole, into integrity, as we must be. My first tattoo was integrity. I will say this is enough for today, as are you. The story of not enough is a universal one that has plagued us and need not no longer. I hope this has added value to you and would love to know what it did, so please do leave a comment down below to let me know. It's Laura J. with a purple pen today. For sovereignty, eh? Truly Canadian, or at least proud to be native to these lands I was born to in London, Ontario. The common lands, currently under command of the Corporation of Canada. That's where I am, not as a resident, for that is a title I do not agree to be dry docked on, the lands of I stand. Laura J. Namaste.